the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Jim Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the Wilderness Act. That's the law that gives Congress the authority to establish wilderness areas. And some of our most beloved outdoor recreation spots in our region are technically wilderness areas. Decades later, land managers and advocates say it's still a valuable tool to protect landscapes, and they hope to expand its legacy. Aspen Public Radio's Carolyn Yanez has more for the Mountain West News Bureau.
When Arthur Carhart visited Trappers Lake in 1919, he was struck by the majesty of the Flat Tops Mountains, the sounds of birds from stands of aspen and pine trees, the crystal clear water of the lake, all of which you can still appreciate today.
Just the wildness of Trappers Lake and the significance of how peaceful it was captured his soul.
That's Curtis Keach, the Blanco District Ranger for the White River National Forest. Carhart was a landscape architect working for the Forest Service. He'd been sent up to the area about 50 miles east of Meeker. His job? To make plans for roads, boat ramps, and summer homes on the lake.
He felt that it was wild and it needed to stay wild for all the people to enjoy. Not just the rich people that could buy a summer home, but all of us, and not develop it, right?
Carhart went back to Denver and told his supervisors he had a completely different concept for the area. Keach explains that this is where the idea of wilderness was born.
And because of that, Trappers Lake and this area is nicknamed the Cradle of Wilderness.
It wasn't until 45 years later that Congress passed the Wilderness Act, and it would be another 11 years before Trappers Lake itself was protected as part of the Flat Tops Wilderness.
It provides a really high level of protection from extractive industries, so there's no logging or mining or oil and gas development, no road building, no ski resort development in wilderness.
That's Will Rausch, the executive director of Wilderness Workshop, a Carbondale-based environmental advocacy group. It was founded shortly after the Wilderness Act became law to advocate for wilderness in the Roaring Fork watershed, areas that would become the Maroon Bells Snowmass Wilderness, the Hunter Frying Pan Wilderness, and the Raggeds Wilderness. There's now hundreds of thousands of acres of wilderness in the watershed and millions in western Colorado.
They took this new law and just ran with it, and now we're the beneficiary of all that work to have all this wonderful wilderness surrounding us.
Rausch says wilderness helps to build resilience against human-caused climate change. They create clean air sheds and are often areas for headwaters. Water from Trappers Lake eventually feeds the Green River. Wilderness areas are also carbon sinks. They absorb more carbon than they release, storing it in soil, trees, and water sources. And as the pressure of human development in places like Aspen and the Valley grows, they're increasingly important for animals.
It's probably our best tool for protecting wildlife habitat, for protecting large areas of unfragmented lands for the benefit of ecosystems and wildlife.
To that end, there are multiple bills in Congress to designate more wilderness in Colorado, and over 80 lawmakers have sponsored a bill to create Red Rock Wilderness in Utah. But Rausch says there are limitations to creating wilderness areas. He says one glaring error is the idea that these landscapes were completely devoid of people.
There's millennia of people living in all these places that are now public lands and that we're protecting, and that they were home and not like a recreational experience. And so that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep protecting wilderness, but it means we need to really tell that story.
Back at Trappers Lake, a group of fifth graders from Meeker Elementary School is learning that story. Kate Blanche, the Wilderness Trails lead for the White River National Forest, explains to the students it preserves a specific kind of feeling and experience.
What do you guys hear?
A chipmunk.
A chipmunk.
The lake.
The lake. Yeah, you're hearing these natural sounds, right? What are you not hearing?
People.
People.
Cars.
Cars. Trucks. And you?
Beep, beep.
Yeah, you're not hearing all these sounds that humans make, right?
It's all part of Arthur Carhart's original vision to have places where anyone can enjoy nature at its most wild. Curtis Keach, the Blanco District Ranger, thinks it was ahead of its time.
To me, it's impressive that he had the foresight and the courage to step up and start, to push for that.
It's a legacy that Colorado kids are still enjoying over a century later. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Caroline Yanez.
Thanks for listening to Idaho Matters. Boise State Public Radio and Idaho Matters are members of the NPR network. It's an independent coalition of public media podcasters. You can find more shows in the network wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Samantha Wright. We'll see you tomorrow.
No matter what happens in Washington, the NPR Politics Podcast is here for you. For the latest news, insights, and analysis from the election and beyond, listen to the NPR Politics Podcast.